Second chance at the airport, the sterile hum of the airport lounge was a familiar soundtrack to Amelia's life. Travel photographer. She spent more time in transit than in any one place. Today, however, the usual sense of detached anticipation was replaced with a gnawing unease. 5 years. 5 years since she had last seen him, spoken to him, allowed herself to even think about him, without a sharp pang of regret. Liam. Just the name sent a shiver down her spine. Their breakup had been messy, fueled by youthful pride and a stubborn refusal to compromise. They were both so young, so convinced they knew exactly what they wanted from life, that they couldn't see the forest for the trees. Amelia had chosen her career, a life of adventure and independence, over the stability and comfort Liam offered. It was a decision she had questioned countless times in the years that followed. She glanced around the lounge, a sea of weary travelers glued to their devices. What were the odds? Of all the airports, of all the lounges, in all the world, he couldn't be here. It wouldn't be. And then she saw him. He was sitting by the window, bathed in the soft afternoon light, his gaze fixed on the planes taking off in the distance. His hair was shorter, a little grayer at the temples. But the curve of his jaw, the familiar set of his shoulders, it was all undeniably Liam. Amelia's heart pounded in her chest. Should she say something? Pretend she hadn't seen him? The thought of turning and walking away was tempting, but her feet seemed rooted to the spot. 5 years of unspoken words, of unanswered questions, hung heavy in the air between them. A deep breath, she walked towards him, her steps measured and deliberate. As she drew closer, he turned, his eyes widening in surprise. Amelia? His voice was deeper than she remembered, but the warmth in his eyes was unmistakable. A wave of nostalgia washed over her, so potent it almost knocked her off her feet. Liam, she replied, managing a small smile. Fancy meeting you here. He stood up, and for a moment, they just stood there, staring at each other, the years melting away as if they had only parted yesterday. What are you doing here? He asked, his voice still tinged with disbelief. Connecting flight to Iceland, she said. Photography assignment. You. Business trip to London, he replied. Software conference. An awkward silence descended between them, filled with unspoken emotions and the weight of their shared history. Mind if I join you? Amelia asked, gesturing to the empty chair opposite him. Please, Liam said, his eyes never leaving hers. They sat down, and the conversation started tentatively, like two strangers cautiously testing the waters. They talked about their jobs, their travels, the weather. Anything but the elephant in the room. But as they ordered coffee and the minutes ticked by, the tension began to ease. They started to laugh, reminiscing about old memories, silly inside jokes that only they understood. They talked about their friends, their families, their lives in the years since they had last seen each other. Amelia learned that Liam was now a successful software engineer, living in Seattle. He was still single, he admitted, though he had dated a few people over the years. None of them had ever quite measured up. Liam, in turn, learned about Amelia's adventures around the world, her triumphs and challenges as a photographer. He admired her passion, her independence, the very qualities that had once driven them apart. As they talked, Amelia realized that the anger and resentment she had harbored for so long had faded away, then replaced by a sense of understanding and regret. They had both been so young, so headstrong. Maybe, just maybe, they had made a mistake. It's funny, Liam said, stirring his coffee. It feels like no time has passed at all. I know, Amelia replied, smiling. It's like we're picking up right where we left off. But they both knew that wasn't entirely true. They were different people now, shaped by their experiences, their successes, and their failures. The question was, had they changed enough to make it work this time around? As they sat there, lost in conversation, an announcement crackled over the loudspeaker. Flight 347 to Reykjavik is now boarding at gate 22. Amelia's heart sank. It was time. It's time to say goodbye. Perhaps for good. She stood up, gathering her bag. She said, forcing a smile. It was great seeing you, Liam. You too, Amelia, he replied, his voice quiet. They walked towards the gate, the silence between them heavy with unspoken words. At the entrance, Amelia turned to face him, her eyes searching his. Still hate flying alone? Liam asked, his voice barely a whisper. Amelia's breath caught in her throat. It was a silly, insignificant question, a callback to a conversation they had had years ago, when she had confessed her fear of flying solo. But in that moment, it felt like everything. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw the same warmth, the same kindness, the same love that she had fallen for all those years ago. And she knew with a certainty that surprised even herself that she couldn't walk away. Not again, she said, her voice trembling. I still hate flying alone. A slow smile spread across Liam's face. He reached out and took her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. Then don't, he said. Amelia hesitated for a moment, her mind racing. Her career, her independence, everything she had worked so hard for. Could she give it up? Could she risk her heart again? But then she looked into Liam's eyes, and she knew that the answer was yes. Some things were worth risking everything for. Okay, she said, her voice filled with a newfound resolve. Okay, I won't. She turned to the gate agent, her heart pounding in her chest. Excuse me, she said, I need to cancel my flight. The gate agent looked at her, surprised. Are you sure, ma'am? Absolutely, Amelia replied, her eyes fixed on Liam. I have a change of plans. As she walked away from the gate, leaving her Iceland adventure behind, Amelia felt a sense of liberation she had never experienced before. She was choosing love, choosing happiness, choosing a second chance. Liam squeezed her hand, his eyes shining with joy. What now? He asked. Now, Amelia said, smiling, we figure out how to make this work. They spent the next few days exploring London together, rediscovering their connection, and making plans for the future. Amelia decided to take a break from her travels, at least for a while, and moved to Seattle to be with Liam. She could still pursue her photography, she realized, but now she would have someone to share her adventures with. It wasn't going to be easy. Had a lot to learn about each other, a lot of catching up to do, but they were both willing to put in the work, to compromise, to communicate, to make sure they didn't repeat the mistakes of the past. As they boarded a flight to Seattle, hand in hand, Amelia looked at Liam and smiled. Fate had given them a second chance, a chance to rewrite their story, to build a future together. And this time, they weren't going to let it slip away.